What's up, everybody? This is Henry Fleischer here from the Cannabis Dispatch, also the CBD Business Networking Group on Facebook, and I have two very special guests today. I have Billy Ball and J.R. Lucas of We Educate Global. So, you two, tell us a little bit about We Educate Global.
Well, I used to work for the Texas Rangers Baseball Club. I'm an amputee, and I have, once it all happened, I started losing myself because I was given a prescription for some anti-anxiety medicine because I started having really bad panic attacks. But, became an amputee, went and got a job at the ballpark, was there for about 9.5 years. I love baseball, but I was losing myself, and I discovered these classes through the DFW Academy of Cannabis Science. Quit my job the next day after I found the classes, kind of like took that leap of faith because I knew how the products helped me. I wanted to be able to other people to know how great these products are. So I started taking the classes and kind of worked my way into this organization and realized that there's so much more education and information that needs to be given to people. Even with CBD, people have that stigma in their head. Oh, it's bad. It's the devil's lettuce. It comes from the marijuana, and we have to, moderate it and legislate it to death. And so we decided that there needs to be more education. People need to understand the role that organizations like NIH and NIDA play in the war on drugs and against something as beautiful as CBD. And so we kind of expanded it and made our own education program. And, if you put it together, it says We Educate. So it's, it's a little like you can be, okay. But we also want to expand, that platform because CBD, hemp, cannabis products, it all plays into a larger scheme, I think, of the whole world.
Yeah, so with We Educate Global, what we really looked at from a business model and education model was also expanding to deal with technical business education as well as expansion, not just within the hemp and cannabis space, but how the hemp and cannabis industry is actually bringing a lot of these industries together now, from the entertainment segment to the gaming segment to new forms of textile business and, from the industrial hemp side. So there's a lot of evolution that needs to happen here. And what we're looking at is a longer term scale education model where we're helping other entrepreneurs either get their start or providing a future workforce with training for people to be integrated into an education network that becomes kind of like a bigger digital ecosystem where we can do a combination of flag locations in certain regions of the US and even across the globe, but even expand the resources to where it's accessible virtually no matter where you're at and from multiple platforms. So we looked at also expanding into working with a larger media company that's about to release here in the next month, where we'll release more information out to the public regarding expansions of other education segments we're offering. But then it works into the bigger model of providing services and other resources that give people new opportunities in this post-pandemic world, which really we're still feeling a lot of the major effects of the pandemic.
Oh, got it. So yeah, how long ago did you guys get involved with We Educate?
So we've had the entity since October 2019. And we've been kind of studying how we were going to launch the business model for a good 6 to 9 months after that. And what we really kind of got impacted by was the pandemic, and other projects and other joint ventures that we had worked on got majorly slowed down due to that. And we saw a lot of the effects that it happened on not just us, but the others around us that were starting up their own businesses. And unfortunately, they weren't even at the point where they could have utilized the PPP loans or anything to that degree. So it really hindered them actually getting their start. So now they're circling back around in 2021, and we're looking at even changing how we engage them before to what we're engaging them now to have a different plan of action, different funding sources, different planning from an operational perspective, and depending on what their area of focus is, just having a better support structure for them as well.
Yeah. So was that the toughest thing you went through when opening up, was the pandemic?
I would definitely say yes, because it hit us right at a bad time. And we had already lined up a number of funding options to move forward, and they got kind of cut off at the seams pretty abruptly when the shutdown started to happen. And we were already planning for a virtual model, but we wanted to have a combination of hands-on and virtual experience, and something that leads up to, some of the future technology within virtual and augmented reality, to expand into those areas. So a lot of the technology still needs to be built into these programs that are being set up, to change kind of the mentalities of future workforces, and help them kind of work through some of the way new workforces will actually engage their industry.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I've, a little bit of research on you, Henry, that you're a tech guy. This one is too. And another big problem within this industry, banking and being able to advertise and market, we sold one of our products to someone, one of our partners did, and it said CBD on it. Next thing you know, we're banned from PayPal because we're selling drugs. And it's like, it's not drugs. And, just getting the marketing, the advertising, and it all has to be organic, because no one wants you to succeed. Facebook and some of these other platforms. And he knows you have to be really careful about what you say, how you market it, any buzzwords that you put in there. And of course, what he's taught me, you have to have the SEOs to get to us, but once you get there, you have to be careful what you say, so the government doesn't come down and say, you made a claim or you said this, when we know in fact that these products work, but the government refuses to acknowledge any of that nonsense.
Yeah. Oh, so that just got me thinking too. Like, you see any social media platforms coming out where it's going to be like, hey, you're allowed to advertise this, like kind of like what Parler was doing was like uncensored. So if they come back, I wonder if they offer advertising. Is that something you see coming about?
Well, we're taking a different approach. And about 3 to 4 years ago, I had already kind of done the whole gray area marketing in a specific space, and where you're having to pay for all this digital advertising and working through these ad networks. And I kind of viewed that as a business model that got outdated. And really, these ad networks, like what Facebook is now, what Instagram is, these traditional, let's call them traditional social media platforms at this point, those particular channels got to be where it was too restrictive and changing too often, to where you're playing more of the algorithm on a day-to-day basis versus actually, hey, I have a quality ad here, and because something got triggered, now it's getting delayed on my social campaign. So that slows down your business progress. Well, granted, those policies will be ever changing. However, there's other ways in 2021 to market untraditionally, indirectly, and through other means that give other people opportunities to leverage their own following, either as an influencer or as an ambassador, in different ways. But to start to break away from utilizing the need for Facebook and Instagram, I think is what's key moving forward. You have all these spin-up groups, but what we continue to see is that you have all the same people following all those same groups, and they want to create themselves as being an intermediary or middleman to the business you can conduct, which again, they shouldn't have any relevance to what you're trying to do. So everything that we're looking at is to work with people on a back-end methodology through our education network to actually provide new marketing directives that kind of redefine how marketing is going to be done, and leading into where we're in these decentralized, decensored arenas where we're going to the internet and streaming 2.0 era, not staying here in the past.
Oh, got it. I've seen some ways people have gotten around the restrictions too on Facebook. They call themselves a wellness product.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We've thrown that in there, and you have to, there have been times where I've spent all day just Googling synonyms for a whole bunch of words. And it's like, hey, we can't say this. So what can we say? Let's call it this. Let's switch this. And, there's always ways to get around it. You just have to figure out what they are without sounding too cliched. And sometimes they, silly.
Well, and it's always a combination of your ad headline and your ad copy. But the picture itself, too, what people need to realize is that also hits the algorithm. And if you have certain types of images, they get flagged immediately through the automated system. So if you're just starting your ad account out, it's easy to get it banned if you're not very familiar with those particular areas. That's something that I don't want us to even have to deal with anymore. That's, again, something I dealt with 3 to 4 years ago, where it wasn't something that I view as, if the platform's going to do that to people, especially from a small business perspective, it's a platform that small businesses should stop supporting.
Oh yeah, I hear you. I know. Yeah, there's a bunch of people who have like horror stories of when their accounts got suspended. Like they've had a hard time getting it.
Yeah, and you don't get the money back either. Like that's the other thing. Those ad campaigns, if they took your money, you don't get a cent of it back.
Mm-mm.
No, yeah, I mean it's a tough thing to deal with, but knowing everything you know now, what would you do differently if you had to start from day one again?
You know what? Honestly, this is part of our education mindset. Is we look at it from an entrepreneurial perspective. These weren't really failures; these were just lessons learned. And these are things that we integrate into our ever-evolving education platform to change and define the curriculum to where what we will do is continue to mold to where we think business is going. So I wouldn't tell you that we would redo anything at all. We would just continue to.
There's a few people, you bring them in and you truly want to help them. And my biggest advice would be once someone screws you over once, there shouldn't be any more second chances, because they're going to continue to do it. And in this industry, there's no time to keep giving adults more than one chance to ruin your business. Because we both have big hearts. We want to help people. We want to see people succeed. And sometimes it's cost us dearly in ways. And, looking back, it was a learning experience. I wouldn't say I would change anything, because we learned some stuff, but I might have been a little more willing to get them out of our lives quicker.
Oh, I got. Yeah. So like knowing that now, do you set boundaries right from the start if you started working with somebody new?
Yes. We, still sweet, still loving, giving, wanting them to succeed, but we're like, here's the line, and it doesn't move. It stays right here. If you cross it, even if you want to test me and encroach it, we just don't have time for that anymore. I mean, this industry is going, and with things like they are in Texas, we have to make our own way. We want to set that path for people to see, and we just don't have time. If you're wanting to truly help people, you don't have time for people to come in and fiddle fart and be dramatic and all this bougie stuff that's going on. No time for it. None.
No, I mean that's been a problem too within the space too. Like some farmers have been sitting on crops that are 2+ years old because of some of those people who say, "Oh, we're going to enter this contract," who ended up not having the
correct.
Yes.
Legit, not being without being like that legit,
Yes, exactly.
Because there's so many middlemen involved, and the farmers, I think, are the ones who get the shortest end of that stick. They're like, you got this middleman who makes all this money from buying this farmer's crop, and all he does is turn around and give it to these people. Especially if you're talking about hemp, if you can make fine linen out of the same hemp that you can make blue jeans out of, why is this middleman making all the money, and the farmer who put all his work, sweat, tears, effort, making sure the crop was compliant, why isn't he getting his fair share? Why is he not? There's a place down here in Texas that just opened up called Panda Biotech. They're over close to Wichita Falls, and they want to get like all the hemp from all the hemp farmers in a 150-mile radius area, to make it sustainable and all those other good buzzwords. But they want to give the farmers this much money and then turn it around and sell it for a humongous profit to like people in Nashville to make fine clothing out of it. And it's like, there just needs to be a balance with that, because some of these farmers, they don't know. We have all these hemp conventions, and you go to a hemp convention and these 20 people are selling seeds, and these people are selling equipment, and these people are selling planters. No one brings it together for them. They're like, well, here's your seeds. And they're like, well, how do you plant it? Well, I don't know. Go ask that guy. Okay, well, I have these seeds. How do I use this equipment, and what nutrients or supplements do I need? Well, I can help you plant it, but I don't know about nutrients or supplements. And so there's no way for all these people to know the correct way to do things. And farmers, they're farmers. They don't have time to go to a 4-year university to learn how to grow a plant. They need to learn how to grow this plant compliantly, because like we were talking about earlier, the government's not going to come to your farm and say, there's too much vitamin C in that tomato over there. Your crop is ruined. It's just not going to happen. But, they can come down and say, these hundreds of acres of this beautiful hemp that you've grown is hitting at 0.3, which means when you cut it and harvest it, it's going to be over. Destroy it. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah, of course. I was saying too, I think in a common practice too, they're saying, hey, if somebody's brokering for a farmer, they should get 10% of the sales. So you've heard stories where they take more than that. Oh damn, that's not fair at all.
Right. Or these contracts, we saw a couple of years ago, a contract. These people kind of went in behind our backs. We were really wanting to help these farmers. And, these other people kind of sneak in behind us and present this contract to these farmers. This land had been in their family, their ancestors bought it or received it from San Jacinto Santa Ana, way back in the day. So this land had been in their family forever. And this contract was basically like, this is fine. Here's how much money. But if something happens, we're just gonna go ahead and take all of your land as collateral. And I'm like, the hell you are? Rip that up. And some farmers will sign it because they're like, oh, it won't happen. But just in case, go ahead and sign this, and we'll just take your land as collateral. But it won't happen. And then it happens, and these farmers are totally screwed, just totally screwed over.
Yeah. Oh, that's absurd right there.
Right.
Isn't that bananas? Even big companies like Monsanto, that used to be to where if they had, a farm here that they were growing stuff on, and Farmer Timmy over here had his farm, and some of Monsanto's crops blew over to Farmer Timmy's farm and cross-pollinated his crops. Monsanto could sue Farmer Timmy for theft and take his land. But now they've switched it because we all know Monsanto is, horrible. And now Farmer Timmy can sue Monsanto for not adequately, doing what they needed to with their crops. So everything just kind of needs to even out and be fair. And no one knows what fair is. I mean, normal people know what fair is, but you get lawyers and the speak and all that, and things aren't fair.
I know. I mean, that's because right now we're still in a Wild West period for
exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Oklahoma's getting a rude awakening to that, just like how California and Colorado did. Regulations starting to come through. They started projects without actually addressing some of the regulatory compliance items, or assumed that any city or county that they started their farm operations in, that everything was okay. And, without having any of that in writing before actually starting the operation. So either they never get off the ground because they get shut down before they can start, because the city or county steps in and says, oh, well, because of this ordinance, you actually don't get to open this type of business up here, whether it be a grow operation or a dispensary. But let's say they actually do get going. Okay, you have some of these farmers that are just used to this down and dirty methodology of getting some crops grown. Well, you can't have that mentality in this industry because of the tracking regulations from seed to sell that are required. And one of the current projects that we're working on, we're even seeing where some of the real estate deals are being blocked for people that have received their licenses from the state, and they can't even move forward with their business. And now there's other legalities that have to be involved. Well, that's something too that we hope some of the regulatory agencies will help address, that as certain licenses are being issued and they know it's part of a real estate deal, that the person purchasing the real estate deal actually has a little bit of help legally from the state to help push that deal along. Because ultimately what's suffering are are the patients' taxpayer dollars not going back into the state that then fund other programs and actually make that a legitimate industry in that state.
Because we always talk about in class, I used to love saying, oh, you'll see lettuce get recalled. You'll see spinach get recalled. Cannabis and hemp products have never killed anyone. And I'll be gosh darned if in November they didn't recall a huge lot of medicinal cannabis in Oklahoma because they had it tested, and we still don't know the full story if the lab fudged it or what happened, but they had to recall all this cannabis because it had high levels of lead, pesticides in it. Some had mold, all from this one batch that somehow was tested and let out onto the public. And now they have to get all this cannabis back. And let's face it, it's probably already mostly smoked, so, or utilized.
Oh, I've heard stories about that where some brands have let their product go on the market with all the heavy metals in there and not the proper COAs. So that's like that has to be enforced more strictly too.
Exactly. Well, a couple of years ago in Florida, where was it? Where the product was tested, I think it was double tested. So the product was great. The product was beautiful, but they ordered some bottles from China. And once they put the product into the bottles, they tested positive for heavy amounts of lead and other things because the bottles were the problem. Mm-hmm. And, so everything had to be recalled and destroyed because you can't put that into your body.
Correct.
Oh, never heard about that one with the bottles though.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Nah, yeah, it is. And like 6 months to a year down the line, where would you like to see the business head?
Well, I would like to see that we're really showcasing a lot of the other entrepreneurial groups at a global level that we're working with, and really show the proof in the pudding with a different type of business technical school that can be plugged into other industries, and really showcasing how these other industry segments from the technology perspective are really going to become really a critical piece of your business operation, no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm. And we would like to see more people using products, maybe ours, but, and less people using, pills, because I hate seeing someone take 20 pills a day and you're like, what's that one for? Well, that's for the side effect of this one. And this pill's for the side effect of that one. And this one's for the side effect of that one, because this one causes me to have anal leakage and suicidal thoughts. And you're like, it's like when you see these commercials on TV, 5 minutes later, I'm like, I don't even remember what this is supposed to cure because it's telling me I could kill someone, I could kill myself, my skin might fall off, it could cause death, and these side effects are so awful. And, us making products, it was kind of like a natural progression to where we just kind of wanted to see how they were done because we were working with other product makers. And when you walk into some of these stores and you see how expensive they are, and then you read the labels, and some of them are so overprocessed. Like it's just, you wonder where the benefit in them is from. And so we were like, well, we have this beautiful plant, this whole plant. Let's do stuff with it. Let's just get the good stuff off of it, put some other good stuff in there and leave it alone. Let's not overprocess it and let's stay in our lane. You walk into a CBD store and there are a bazillion products and you're like, what does this one do? What does this one do? Why are these mints $200? Why does this product say it's a full/broad spectrum product? That can't happen. So let's make these beautiful products, see what people think about them, and just help people, because with my amputee pains, I don't want to take a lot of pills. I want to take something that's going to continue to help my homeostasis, make me feel better top to bottom, inside out, 24/7. And, you use these natural lotions, and we make gummies and, a few other products that we're working on, but they work. We've tested them. We've tested them on friends. Mm-hmm. And when they tell us that they feel better, that's what it's all about.
Gotcha. And I was going to ask you guys too, like if somebody was to choose between your business and 3 others just like yours, why'd you suggest they give you a try first?
Well, from the education portion, we try to customize based on the students' needs, and we try to help them go down a path and a journey versus saying, oh, you only have to fit within this particular model. And we really want to showcase how we work differently with our student base to really see how we can help them best after they go through portions of our courses and come up with a plan and a path for them. And not all of that even gets marketed out to the student. That's something, once they're in our system, we actually go through with them individually and look to make sure that they're doing things the right way. And we provide an extra support structure from that perspective. I know there's other educational models that already have some of these employers lined up and things like that. Our approach is really focusing on more people that want to create a self-sustaining business for themselves versus just going to work for an employer. If there are people that want to get positions at certain companies, we want to help them with the certification aspect from what we provide. But also, we're also trying to do everything in a cost-effective manner to them, to where they are investing in themselves, but they're not breaking their bank to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if someone does want to go try different CBD products or different education path, good for them, whatever is going to work for them. But we try to make it feel like a family. Like, we really want to see them succeed and see where they want to go. And some people just want to come in and take the class and be like, oh, cool, I got this knowledge. Some people really want to continue and go forward in this industry, but it's difficult, it's hard, it's confusing. And so we want to try to help navigate that with them and for them. But like I said, if they can find relief from this product, great, you're feeling better, fantastic, because there's enough education and plant to go around for everyone. So we just want to see everyone succeed, but in a good ethical way, because when we've dealt with some people who they're like, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow, and it's like, good, but they screwed people along the way, and their reputation is that that's what they did, and they are really no longer, we don't see them in the industry anymore because they jerked around so many people. And it seems like when you do it right, it takes a little bit longer, and that's okay. Because, you're setting that groundwork, you're making sure the foundation is solid and stable and the beams are up and good and everything is the way it should be. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but the rewards of seeing people educated, seeing them feel better because of your products, because you did things the right way, it's very satisfying.
Oh, of course. And another thing too is, what's the number one way you currently get new customers?
So it's all around.
Stand on the street corner. No.
It's all around continuing to change your organic strategies, whether that be from SEO, these indirect marketing paths, starting to really kind of pave the way on these new marketing strategies has been very key, and they've been very much in a prototype beta mode for the past year. And we're now launching those and launching other avenues to where, we talk about creating entrepreneurs, but we also talk about creating something of value for them. And that's done in multiple ways, not just from the educational path or providing them with the product, but it's also, hey, are you going to start a show on a different platform? Let us help you get that started. And we also help you monetize that from there to create that sustainable model. So that's one method at a very simplistic point of view. But if you're working with the right individuals, they've been able to grow their following during the transition of that education journey. And by the time they are ready to actually kind of branch out on their own, they are supporting themselves doing so.
Oh, gotcha. And another thing too, like, which industry do you think is going to be most positively affected by like the incoming legalization that should happen sometime soon?
Banking.
Banking first.
Banking first.
The CBD market will heavily be affected either way. You're going to have companies like Coca-Cola, Marlboro. They've already been threatening that for a few years now. Could be anything dietary supplement wise will be impacted by big business coming through as regulatory changes occur. I'm really hoping that we see a true change in the medical and insurance industry, and we'll start removing some of these pharmaceuticals from having global political control over everything. And ultimately, that is the big business. We have there's a lot of synthetic products that will be probably released in this industry that remove the full plant aspect from what the consumer is actually wanting, or the patient, to handle whatever condition they're dealing with. Or are they just wanting something for general health? Well, you don't need these synthetic drugs to do that. All you need is the right to the full plant. And whether you do a home grow, whether you're purchasing products from somebody else, as those restrictions, as long as they're lifted, all the consumers and patients will actually get a better benefit.
And you talk real quick, talking about the banking, when we were the DFW Academy of Cannabis Science, couldn't get a bank account. That's why we came up with We Educate Global. It still gets the point across, but all of a sudden, sure, we can get a bank account. When we started Planet Harvest Health, the products, we found a bank down in Waco, kind of close to us, but because we are a CBD product company, we have to pay a monthly fee. And it's funny because, hey, the people in Vegas at the brothels, you do what you got to do. But they have 401ks, health insurance, and bank accounts. And it's like, we sell a product based on a beautiful little plant. It would be like Heinz having to get a special bank account because they sell ketchup with too much vitamin C in it. It just boggles the mind that we have to pay for a bank account and other businesses do not.
Well, and to that degree, it's some of these farms are going to be charged upwards to $1,500 a month for a bank account. And for the banking industry to do something like that is kind of crazy. And then you have Fintech coming in and saying, oh, well, you can't utilize cryptocurrencies in your business model as a business, but you can do it all day long from a personal perspective. So we've talked to other professionals in the merchant services arena and around that aspect. And that's something that I don't understand why we haven't evolved as a society to be able to integrate technology in a much faster capacity. It really kind of burdens the state, honestly, because if we can pass things federally, we shouldn't have to worry about having to do this next level at a state level, and then they have their own different roles. It's like we really need to be consistent across the board to move business along and do what the U.S. was founded on, which is, people should be able to support themselves and build their own businesses without all this extra red tape that we've seen as just being where it's just slowing down people from owning their own piece of the pie, let's say that, and progressing in society where you have a bunch of old money just preventing that from happening.
Oh yeah, I hear you. Even like Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper too. So
correct.
Yeah, I think every American holiday should be celebrated with its hope.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just 420.
It should be every day.
Every day.
Yeah, there's nothing more American than that.
Right. I mean, because, back before all this nonsense, until Prohibition started, farmers were required to grow 20% of their crops as hemp to give to the government for taxes.
Yeah, that's like, they got to go back to that.
Exactly. And you got to think about it. When this plant was readily available, the hemp, cannabis used to be in a whole bunch of medicine. I bet that stuff was great. But look at, it was stripped away from our bodies and our ecosystem. It used to grow freely. Our animals ate it. We were around it. Then the animals were in us. We were constantly bombarded with this beautiful plant that we really had no idea how beautiful it was. But once it was taken away from us and ripped out of our ecosystem, look at all these onslaught of weird diseases, new diseases that are even worse than they were back then. And it's because we're not taking care of ourselves. Don't use hemp or cannabis products, but drive through McDonald's or Burger King, because you're so busy and it's so cheap and so easy that it's easier to do that than try to put good food, good plant-based medicine into your body.
Yeah, I don't think even in like schools they don't teach us about the cannabinoid system. I don't remember.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they never seen anything.
That should be Health 101. I love that you're bringing that up.
Yes.
Because they cover the respiratory system, nervous system, digestive, like the skeletal system, nothing with cannabinoids.
They teach you sex ed before they teach you anything about this.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, you're exactly right. It should be, it's a system within your body, but if they acknowledge it, then they're going to have to acknowledge this medicine. And, you know, I don't know if you know who Dr. Raphael Mechoulam is. You know, they're going to have to acknowledge all the great work he did when he discovered the endocannabinoid system. And then he discovered the CB1s and the CB2 receptors. And then he's the one who discovered anandamide and 2-arachidoglycerol, 2AG, that, you know, your endocannabinoids. And he's the one who's like, but you need this plant to come into your body. Your body needs it. It's like, I don't produce enough potassium, so I need to eat bananas to get that into me. And I'm sure my body wants an actual banana instead of a pill washed down with some Diet Coke, because my body needs the natural medicine, just like it needs this natural phytocannabinoids and not some synthetic made in a lab.
Oh yeah, even like, but there were some businesses back then too that were threatened by cannabis. Like they were.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
the gas industry, the paper industry. William Randolph Hearst. I mean,
he's the biggest. Yeah. He was
What a
the-
great big
talk
racist
about
a-hole.
Yeah, and let's talk about Henry Ford making one of his original cars out of hemp.
I was
And
gonna
then it
actually talk about that because like that thing was like indestructible and
Yeah,
It was,
exactly.
yes,
and
yes.
why didn't we just keep doing that? That would have sustained U.S. business so much better back then. But you bring in all this other, what the industrial era pretty much was formed because of all that, and the prohibition areas and the other social equity type issues within the racism within the prohibition side. You know, so it actually created not just one issue, but many by doing that. And it showed the corruption level, which at this point in society, you know, all that stuff is very much coming to the forefront, and we're paying for it now. Rather than being able to focus on, hey, why can't people just be happy? Why can't people just flourish in their own businesses and be able to work with each other? It's the government is a master marketer. They learned early on how to create the fear system, how to create the divide in people, and that's something that is really hurting us today.
No, yeah, I agree. Another thing too, even if like the acts couldn't go through the hemp cards, like maybe the military could also think about using hemp for armor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't know if you've seen recent studies, but it looks like NASA's really focusing around a hemp diet up in space. So they're also looking at, okay, what can we actually grow up there as well to help create more sustainability, why people are staying up in space, you know? And then we're going to see a lot of technological advancements now that are going to really question a lot of religious beliefs because of what's out there. And now the government's also talking about UFOs. Oh yeah, like we all knew, there's a lot of questions around that for a long period of time, but now there's a lot of documentation support. So if you can admit to that, why can't we fix this other easy issue that's in front of everybody's face right now?
Mhm.
Oh yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about entering the cannabis space?
Whew. Run. No, I'm kidding.
No, just be a sponge, and don't be too quick to make decisions. Try to figure out what you want to get out of the cannabis industry or hemp industry, and create your own circle of people that are your own trust group, that are your own network. And without that, you're not going to actually succeed and achieve your goals. There still is very much where you need to work within multiple groups, but you have to make sure you have done your own due diligence and your own research, and looking at who's really viable in the industry, and not just the mainstream media that we're just seeing being pushed because somebody had a $20 million budget.
And find your niche. You know, some people are like, I'm going to be a millionaire, and they don't have the training, and they need to, maybe one day they're going to be the big bad upper boss. But don't be scared to ask someone for help. Don't be scared to start way at the bottom and literally work your way up to the top. 22-hour days, weird hours. I mean, if you want it, you have to work really, really, really hard for it. And it is satisfying. It's frustrating sometimes, but it is satisfying when you know you're on the path that you're supposed to be. Because the great thing about this industry is no matter what people do in the normal world right now, it's all going to transfer over to the cannabis and hemp side seamlessly, you know?
Mhm. Oh, that's like good piece of advice too. You said like about starting at like the bottom. I think in order to get to the top, you really have to start from the bottom, like the very, very bottom.
Exactly. Like way, way down there. Bottom of my shoe. No kidding.
It's like you gotta be underground, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Literally.
and I will tell you, I mean, we've had students that they want to jump to the end of the program and you know, and then they call us back a month after the fact and they're like, well, hey, this didn't work out for me. And we're like, we know, because you didn't follow the actual program. And, you know, following that program gives you the advice, gives you the industry introduction of what you're going to have to deal with and what foundational knowledge you should truly know and understand before you start engaging some of these particular groups that may have already been in the industry for a few years. And when you walk in that door and you're trying to over exaggerate what you know or what you can be, you know, that turns people off real quick. You have to be a very natural person and you know, showcase what you can really bring to the table.
So yeah, it was great having you on here. More than welcome to be back on for future interviews as well.
We would love that. We'd love to talk to you some more. It was a pleasure. Absolutely.
Business announcements, definitely reach out.
For sure.
Yeah, we definitely will.
And if you would like, I mean, we'd love to send you some of our products and get your feedback on them as well. Because I know you, kind of like us, people are always sending you stuff. And, you know, there's some stuff you're like, man, this is great. And there's some stuff you put it in your mouth and you're like, I can't get it out quickly enough. But
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, I will email you later and get your address and send you a little goodie gift bag.
Yeah, thank you.
And we do want to invite you to some of the future interviews that we'll be having onto our media platform. So there's a lot of changes that are upcoming. Like I said, in about a month, we're about to announce some other major changes on our end. And we'd love to incorporate more people that actually support the industry the right way.
Oh, awesome. Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Yeah, have a good day.
Thank you so much, Henry.
Thank you, Henry. You have a great day. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.